Fear is not a barrier. It is an invitation, a signal that you are standing at the edge of something meaningful. Whenever you feel that pressure in your chest, that hesitation in your step, that whisper in your mind telling you to back away, it isn't a warning to retreat. It's a sign that you are brushing up against a place where you can grow. Fear tends to appear most intensely right before a major breakthrough, as if life is testing how badly you want what you say you desire. When you start looking at fear not as a stop sign but as a doorway, everything in your life begins to shift. There are moments when fear disguises itself as logic, convincing you that staying still is the safest route. It whispers doubts and paints the unknown as dangerous, but that is only because the unknown holds the version of you that fear cannot control. When you lean into what scares you, you begin to strip fear of its power. You begin to understand that fear has no authority unless you hand it over willingly. And every time you step forward, even when you are shaking, you reclaim a piece of that authority. Fear shows up because it senses your potential before you do. It appears right when you're about to enter a space you've never experienced before, because new levels require new strength. You don't build that strength by avoiding fear. You build it by walking directly toward the thing that terrifies you. What feels frightening often aligns perfectly with what will elevate your life, expand your capacity, and reshape your identity. People often assume fear means stop, but more often it means pay attention. It means you're moving towards something that matters, something that stretches your limits and pushes you outside the predictable. You can't grow inside the same circle you've always lived in, and fear is the boundary of that circle. When you push through it, the circle expands, and soon the thing that once intimidated you becomes the new normal. Fear is an invitation to discover how powerful you actually are. You cannot know your strength until you are challenged. You cannot know your courage until you are tested. When fear rises, it is presenting you with an opportunity to see what you're made of. Each step through fear is a step toward becoming the person you always imagined yourself to be, not the one limited by old doubts or past versions of your identity. There will be times when fear feels overwhelming, almost paralyzing. In those moments, it's important to recognize that fear thrives in uncertainty, but you grow in it. Every great accomplishment, every bold decision, every life-altering change you admire in others began with someone standing exactly where you stand now, facing fear and choosing to move anyway. When you realize that fear is a universal experience, you stop feeling alone in it and start feeling empowered to rise above it. Fear invites you to step beyond your comfort zone, and that zone is where dreams go to die if you never challenge it. Comfort feels good, but it rarely leads to transformation. The invitations fear sends you are uncomfortable for a reason. They're meant to stretch you, to sharpen you, to pull you into the next dimension of your life. When you reject that invitation, you stay small. When you accept it, you begin to evolve. Every fear you face reveals a piece of your destiny. The things that intimidate you often align with your calling. Fear pushes you to confront the parts of yourself you've avoided. It forces you to strengthen your faith, your resilience, and your character. By walking toward fear, you prove to yourself that you are capable of far more than you once believed. Fear invites you to redefine what is possible. When you step into spaces that intimidate you, you open doors that were once hidden. New opportunities, new strengths, new versions of success begin to reveal themselves. Fear may feel like resistance, but resistance is what builds muscle, mental, emotional, and spiritual. The more you push through it, the stronger you become. Fear is an invitation to rise to your highest potential, to confront the limitations you've held on to for too long, and to embrace the possibilities waiting for you. It challenges you to question your doubt, reject your excuses, and step into a future that reflects your true capability. Fear is not there to stop you. It is there to show you the path you are meant to take, guiding you toward a greater version of yourself with every step you choose to take toward it. Growth requires discomfort because nothing meaningful ever develops in the safety of ease. When everything feels familiar, predictable, and smooth, there is no need for your mind, body, or spirit to stretch beyond what it already knows. Discomfort is the signal that you are entering territory that will challenge your limits, reshape your identity, and unlock strengths you didn't realize you possessed. The uneasiness you feel isn't a sign to turn back. It's evidence that you are moving in the right direction, toward a version of yourself that cannot be reached by staying in the same place. When growth begins, it often feels like pressure, tension, or resistance. These sensations can be uncomfortable, but they are not indicators of danger. They are indicators of transformation. Just as muscles grow by being pushed to the edge of their capacity, your character grows when life stretches you beyond your comfort zone. Without the strain, there is no expansion. Without the challenge, there is no elevation. The pain of stretching is temporary, but the strength it builds is permanent. Discomfort reveals your commitment. Anyone can talk about goals, dreams, and success, but only those willing to endure discomfort demonstrate that they truly want to grow. Growth is not a smooth journey. It is a process of breaking old patterns, letting go of limiting beliefs, and stepping into uncertainty. Each time you choose discomfort over complacency, you are choosing your future over your fear, your purpose over your excuses, and your growth over the familiarity of your past. There will be times when discomfort feels overwhelming, as if you're being pushed beyond what you think you can handle. Yet it is precisely in those moments that growth accelerates. The discomfort forces you to adapt, to learn, to shift, and to evolve in ways you never would have if everything had stayed easy. It teaches you resilience. It teaches you patience. It teaches you to trust that the struggle is shaping you for something greater. Discomfort is also a teacher, showing you the areas of your life that need attention or refinement. It reveals where you've settled, where you've become passive, and where you've allowed comfort to steal your potential. Instead of avoiding discomfort, facing it allows you to address the deeper patterns and weaknesses that have held you back. As you work through that discomfort, you gain clarity, strength, and a stronger sense of self. Growth requires discomfort because the old version of you must be challenged in order for the new version to emerge. You cannot hold on to everything you've been and expect to reach everything you're meant to be. This transition is uncomfortable because it forces you to confront habits, behaviors, and mindsets that are no longer aligned with your goals. That confrontation is necessary, and though it may be painful, it's the doorway to breakthroughs you've never experienced. You'll notice that every major transformation in your life was preceded by a period of discomfort. The moments when you felt uncertain, stretched, or unprepared were actually the moments preparing you for a higher level of capability. Discomfort sharpens your instincts, deepens your understanding, and strengthens your inner foundation. What once intimidated you eventually becomes the very thing that empowers you. Discomfort is a shaping force. It molds you, reforms you, and often forces you to grow at a pace you did not expect. When things get difficult, rather than asking, "Why is this happening to me?" consider asking, "What is this preparing me for?" That shift in perspective transforms discomfort from an obstacle into an ally. It becomes a necessary part of the journey toward your highest potential. As you continue to grow, the discomfort you once feared becomes the proof of your progress. You begin to understand that every challenge is building you, every setback is strengthening you, and every uncomfortable moment is expanding your capacity. Discomfort no longer feels like something to escape, but something to embrace because you recognize that without it, you cannot elevate. Growth requires discomfort because without it, you remain the same. And remaining the same is the enemy of becoming everything you were created to be. Embracing discomfort allows you to evolve, adapt, and discover the depths of possibility within you that were hidden behind comfort and certainty. Courage is created through action. Because courage doesn't appear out of nowhere or arrive fully formed, it grows each time you choose to move forward despite the doubts, fears, and uncertainties pressing against you. So many people wait for a moment when they finally feel brave enough to begin, not realizing that bravery is built after the beginning, not before it. The very act of taking a step, even a shaky one, plants the seed of courage within you. When you act in the presence of fear, you send a message to your mind that fear does not control you. That small movement becomes a spark that ignites confidence. Action creates proof, and proof strengthens belief. The more you act, the more evidence you gather that you are capable of facing uncomfortable situations. Courage is not a feeling that leads to action. It is the result of the actions you take when you don't feel ready. Every courageous person you admire became that way because they moved before they felt prepared. They didn't wait for certainty. They didn't wait for fear to disappear. They made decisions, took risks, and stepped into unfamiliar territory. Through those steps, courage began to develop like a muscle, strengthened by use, weakened by avoidance. Action is the training ground where courage is built. You learn courage through experience. You learn it by trying, failing, adjusting, and trying again. Failure does not diminish courage, it expands it. Every time you take action and survive what you thought would break you, you grow more resilient. You realize that discomfort isn't fatal and fear isn't final. Action teaches you that you can withstand far more than your mind once told you. Courage is shaped in the moments when you choose movement over hesitation. Even tiny actions, making the call, starting the project, having the difficult conversation, begin to transform your mindset. Each step you take chips away at the power fear tries to hold over you. Bit by bit, your confidence grows, not because the fear is gone, but because you now know you can move through it. Action brings clarity, and clarity builds courage. When you stand still, everything looks bigger, darker, and more intimidating than it truly is. But the moment you act, the fog begins to lift. You start to see opportunities you didn't notice before, paths you didn't consider, and strengths you didn't know you possessed. The more you act, the more the unknown becomes familiar, and the familiar becomes manageable. Courage is created when you stop relying on perfect conditions and start relying on persistence. Conditions will never be ideal, and certainty will never come first. Action is the only force powerful enough to break through the paralysis of overthinking. The moment you take a step, you shift from fear-based imagining to progress-based reality. That shift is where courage is born. It's in the middle of action that you begin to hear a different voice inside you. Not the voice of doubt, but the voice of capability. A voice that grows louder with each step, reminding you that you are strong, resilient, and far more equipped than you once believed. Courage doesn't grow in your comfort zone. It grows in motion, in effort, and in the willingness to show up. The feeling of courage usually arrives after you've taken action, not before. You may start trembling, unsure, or hesitant, but you finish stronger, clearer, and more empowered. Action reshapes your identity. With every move you make, you start seeing yourself as someone who can face challenges rather than someone who avoids them. This identity shift fuels even greater courage. Courage is created through action because action transforms fear into strength. It turns hesitation into momentum and uncertainty into experience. Each step you take builds the next layer of courage within you, forming a foundation that becomes unshakable over time. Your next level lies beyond fear, because fear stands as the final threshold between who you are and who you are capable of becoming. Every time you feel fear rising inside you, it is a sign that you are approaching an area of life where growth, elevation, and transformation are waiting. Fear surrounds the territory that holds your greatest potential, not to block you from entering it, but to show you exactly where your next breakthrough is hiding. When you lean into that fear instead of retreating from it, you move closer to the version of yourself you've been envisioning. Fear doesn't show up when you're doing the ordinary. It shows up when you're getting close to something extraordinary. It appears when you are about to make a decision that can change the trajectory of your life. It shows up when you stand on the edge of something bigger than anything you've ever attempted. That tension you feel is the friction between your current life and your future self. Pushing through that friction is what propels you into your next level. Your next level will always require something you haven't yet mastered. That requirement often feels intimidating, and that feeling of intimidation is what most people mistake for a warning to stop. But in reality, it is an indication that you are stretching, and stretching is necessary because the next version of you will not be built from the comfort of your past. It will be built by stepping into unfamiliar spaces where fear tries to make you hesitate. You cannot reach your next level by repeating the actions of your current level. Fear pushes you to confront the habits, routines, and beliefs that have kept you where you are. It forces you to examine the excuses you've held on to, the doubts you've listened to, and the limitations you've accepted. Beyond fear is where you discover how much more you are capable of when you stop shrinking yourself to fit inside your comfort zone. Every time you walk toward fear, you expand your capacity. What once scared you eventually becomes manageable, and what becomes manageable becomes a stepping stone to something even greater. This is how elevation works, through layers of fear faced and conquered, through ceilings broken and replaced by higher ones. With each breakthrough, you unlock new levels of confidence, strength, and clarity. Fear guards the door to every major opportunity in your life. The job you want, the business you envision, the discipline you dream of building, the relationships you desire, all of them live on the other side of fear. The reason fear stands there is because these opportunities demand a stronger, more intentional, more courageous version of you. You cannot walk through that door carrying your old mindset. Fear forces you to step up before you step through. Your next level requires action that feels risky. It requires decisions that feel uncomfortable. It requires faith when you don't have certainty and movement when you don't have guarantees. Fear makes those moments feel impossible, but when you push through anyway, you prove to yourself that the limitations in your mind are smaller than the possibilities in your future. Each action you take chips away at that mental barrier. Beyond fear is where you meet the version of yourself who is disciplined, focused, and powerful. It is where you discover strengths you didn't know you had and talents you didn't realize were within you. You begin to see that fear was never trying to stop you. It was trying to prepare you. It was pushing you to grow into someone capable of handling the blessings, responsibilities, and opportunities on the next level. The next level of your life is not earned through comfort. It is earned through courage. It demands that you move differently, think differently, and show up differently. Fear will always try to convince you to stay where you are because fear understands what you might become if you ever push past it. And that is precisely why you must move anyway. Your next level lies beyond fear because that is where transformation happens. That is where your potential becomes power, where your dreams become reality, and where the future you've imagined begins to unfold, not as a possibility, but as your new identity. Fear reveals your path, not your limits, because the very things that intimidate you are often connected to the places where your greatest opportunities lie. When something scares you, it is usually because it matters deeply, or because it carries the potential to reshape your future. Fear highlights the direction where growth, purpose, and possibility are waiting. Instead of acting as a barrier, fear becomes a compass, pointing you toward the areas where you need to evolve, stretch, and step forward with intention. Fear often shows up when you are facing a direction that could lead to transformation. It appears when you're approaching decisions that have the power to elevate your life. Most people misinterpret fear as a sign they should avoid that path, but fear is actually signaling that you are standing at the edge of change. It's telling you that the next chapter is waiting just beyond the threshold of what makes you uncomfortable. The presence of fear does not mean you can't proceed. It means you must. When you pay attention to what scares you, you begin to see patterns. Fear reveals where you lack confidence, where you carry doubt, and where you've limited your own potential. But it also reveals where you are being called to rise. The areas where fear is strongest are often the areas where breakthrough is closest. Instead of turning away, leaning toward those areas leads you to the next stage of your becoming. Fear exposes the beliefs and behaviors that need to be challenged. It shows you where you've been playing small, where you've settled for less, and where you've allowed comfort to dictate your choices. The fear you feel is not warning you of defeat. It is pushing you to confront the thoughts and habits that have held you back. The discomfort it creates is the spark that drives change, urging you to grow into the person capable of walking that path with strength. The path fear reveals is not always easy, but it is deeply meaningful. It often leads you through experiences that test your resilience, stretch your capacity, and refine your character. These experiences are necessary because they prepare you for the opportunities waiting ahead. What fear presents to you is not a dead end. It is training. It is preparation for the identity you must build to handle the heights you aim to reach. Fear brings clarity when you take time to understand its purpose. Instead of reacting to it with avoidance, examining it helps you discover why it is there. You begin to differentiate between the fear that protects you and the fear that pushes you. The fear that pushes you, the one tied to growth, ambition, and transformation, is the one that reveals your true path. It shows you where to go, what to challenge, and what to pursue. Fear reveals possibilities that you would never discover in comfort. When you follow the path that fear points toward, you uncover strengths and abilities you didn't know you had. You begin to realize that what you once perceived as limits were merely boundaries created by your past experiences or old narratives. The moment you step in the direction of fear, those boundaries start to dissolve and new levels of potential begin to open. Following the path. Fear points to also expand your identity. Each time you walk toward what intimidates you, you redefine what you believe you're capable of. You outgrow the version of yourself that once hesitated and step into a version that is bold, decisive, and aligned with your purpose. Fear challenges your old limits, but by moving toward it, you create new standards for your life. Fear is not there to stop you, it is there to direct you. The path it reveals may feel uncertain, but uncertainty is the territory where transformation lives. Fear points you toward experiences that build courage, skills that sharpen your mind, and opportunities that shape your future. When you stop interpreting fear as a signal to retreat and start seeing it as a signpost pointing toward growth, your entire life begins to shift. Fear reveals your path because it highlights the exact areas where destiny is calling you forward. It doesn't define what you cannot do. It defines what you must do to become who you were meant to be. Boldness builds success because success is never created by hesitation, doubt, or playing small. It comes from stepping forward with confidence, even when the outcome is uncertain. Boldness is the decision to act with conviction when your mind is full of questions, to move when others pause, and to commit when others overthink. The people who rise are the ones who dare to do what most people only talk about. Boldness becomes the catalyst that turns intention into accomplishment. Boldness is not the absence of fear. It is the refusal to let fear dictate your choices. Every bold move you make chips away at the limits you once believed were real. Each decision to act, speak, or pursue an opportunity builds a stronger sense of identity within you. You begin to see yourself as someone capable of creating the results you desire. That belief grows with every bold step you take, and soon boldness becomes a natural part of who you are. Boldness creates momentum. Once you take a daring step, the next one becomes easier. You start noticing doors that were always there but hidden behind uncertainty. Opportunities begin to appear because bold action changes your energy, your posture, and your mindset. Instead of waiting for good things to happen, you go out and create them. This forward movement is what separates the successful from the stagnant. Boldness builds success because it forces you into rooms, conversations, and environments that elevate your life. It pushes you to ask for what you want, pursue what you believe in, and take chances others avoid. Success often lives in places that feel intimidating, but boldness allows you to enter those spaces with intention rather than fear. It gives you the confidence to stand where you once felt unqualified. Boldness challenges you to think bigger. When you act boldly, you stop settling for the minimum and start aiming for the maximum. You envision possibilities beyond your current circumstances and allow yourself to pursue them without apology. Boldness opens your mind to levels of success that your old cautious self could not imagine. It stretches your capacity and demands that you grow into your potential. Boldness attracts allies, resources, and opportunities. When people see you moving with courage and clarity, they respect it. They respond to it. They want to support it. Boldness signals that you are serious about your goals, and that seriousness draws the right people into your life. Your confidence becomes a magnet, pulling in partnerships, ideas, and breakthroughs that further accelerate your success. Boldness strengthens your resilience because it teaches you to take risks, face challenges, and keep moving, even when things don't go as planned. Every bold decision exposes you to resistance or setbacks, but overcoming them builds strength you could not have gained through caution. The more you act boldly, the more you learn to trust your ability to navigate adversity. This resilience becomes one of your greatest assets on the path to success. Boldness forces you to confront your limitations and replace them with new standards. When you dare to push beyond what feels comfortable, you discover new layers of capability within yourself. You become more confident, more disciplined, and more willing to stretch beyond what you once considered possible. This internal transformation fuels external success, creating a cycle of growth that continues to elevate you. Boldness sets you apart in a world where many people are afraid to take action. Most individuals hesitate, waiting for permission or perfect timing. Boldness gives you an advantage because it positions you ahead of those who are still thinking while you are already doing. It makes you visible in spaces where others remain silent, and visibility is often the first step toward opportunity. Boldness builds success because success belongs to those who dare to try, those who dare to speak, those who dare to pursue their vision. Boldness pushes you into motion, pushes you into growth, and ultimately pushes you into the life you are capable of creating.